Start the latest videos off with this simple regulator, this LT1587. It's got 3 joints around the front, the large sort of joint around the back goes right underneath. And so what we do first, so you can remove these pretty simply with a hot air rework station, but I understand not everyone's got one of them, so this is just a good alternative method. So basically what I'm going to do on this, just add some flux to the front 3 pins. So with this method we're just going to lift the pins slightly, sort of wick off the solder underneath, and then we'll sort of get the large sort of pad removed around the back, or large solder joint around the back. We'll start with that one actually. So we do tweak it up slightly. We'll use the other leg as a sort of lever point. Same in the middle one. Just wait till the solder's melted, don't want to lift it too early. And with this one I can use the sort of capacitor nearby just for a gentle lever point. We have to do just sort of 1/2 millimetre off the board, that's all you need. And get that wicked off. When you've sort of braided them off, just check they're all loose. Just by sort of gently tweaking them with your tweezers. Just do the centre one. Just get that wicked off. Same with this one down here. Try and get my iron in there. Right, this is the point now. Just want to check they're all loose. That one's nice and loose. I think that one might have a little bit of solder under it. That's why it's important to do that check. So just get that soldered off and make sure it's loose then. I can see it going now, that should be loose now. So just gently check that with a pair of tweezers. That's loose and that's loose. So all them 3 sort of front points are loose. So as you can see, yeah, we just literally, it's nice and loose, and that's nice and loose as well. So what we're going to do now, just turn it round to the back side. So you've got the large sort of pad down here, that runs right underneath, so it's going to take a bit of heat. So just add some flux again to the front point. And then what you're going to do now, so we'll I've got a larger soldering iron tip for this point. It needs quite a bit of heat to travel underneath. I'll get my tweezers on the outside body and we're trying to get this removed. Try and get me a little bit difficult because where my camera is, I'm going to have to sort of come from a slightly different angle than I normally would. I wouldn't normally come from this angle, but we'll give it a go. Hopefully it's stayed in focus. So this should slide, there you go. It's nicely removed. So as you can see, you've got the large plane underneath. Still got remnants of the solder on there, you can easily sort of braid that off. Got the front 3 pads nicely still there. So what you can do is just take the sort of excess off with solder braid, sort of clean that up. You're ready to go with a new device. So if you need to refit that, it's okay, you've sort of saved it, you haven't sort of had to damage it in sort of taking it off. You can cut them legs off if you're really careful. So that's just a good option if you haven't got a rework station. So what I'm going to do now, after this device, we'll move on to the first through-hole device, the connector, single row connector, and then yeah, I'll show you how to do that, and then we move on to some more devices later. Right, so move on to the first of the components I'm going to drop out with the wire trick along the pins, that method that I showed in the previous video. In the previous video I did a 5-pin one. This one I've actually got an 8-pin sort of connector. Now I could heat gun the other side of this, but sort of down the front of this connector you've got these tiny 0402 diodes. So I really don't want to put any sort of heat around the board, because these things sort of do come off really easy. For example, if you was doing this board, got some sort of small resistors up the left hand side. But it's these diodes I'd be worried about if I was heat gunning the other side. The heat could go through and possibly sort of disturb these. So the sort of wire along the pins on this this connector is a great option. So this one's an actual 8-pin device. So it sort of extends the range that I did before when I sort of showed the 5-pin one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the board over now, and we'll try and get this out and see how easy it comes out with the wire along the pins. So I'll flip the board over, and what you can see so far, I've basically sort of tinned up a stranded piece of wire I've laid it right along the whole length of the joints, the 8 joints, and I've actually taped it down because these pins, I know for this board for example, are quite tight in the hole, so it might not drop out its own accord. So I'll show you quickly how I get over this one. So what I'm going to do, add some flux along the whole lot. Just add it all around the back and the front of the joints. This will basically aid the solder sort of melting. And what I'm going to do, I've got quite a large tip for this one. So what I do, I try to sort of drop it out on its own, but if it don't, I'll sort of take a pair of tweezers around the back and just sort of help it through. So like I say, the pins are quite tight in these holes, so it might not drop out on its own. So what I do, basically tin all these up so they're all joined to the connected joints in all 8 positions. So just run it along. As you can see, they're all sort of joined along the row. So basically what you can do now, just to sort of give it a helping hand, I'm going to go around the back of this, just get hold of the body. I'm just going to give it a gentle tweak through. So I don't think this one's going to drop out on its own. Just keep running it along the joints. And there's a connector sort of come out underneath, as you can see. So we've got to do then, I'll just take this wire off the joints, just push it out of position. So as you can see, you've got 8 sort of nice joints, unaffected, no damage. So all it'll be now is a case of just, what I'm going to do, just quickly wipe this flux off, just so you can see the pads are fine. So as you can see, I've got 8 pads still there, perfectly sort of good condition. There's the connector that I've just sort of, a bit blurry, but I've just brought it back into play, and that's a good way. So basically if your pins are quite tight, sort of you can sort of give it an extra hand to sort of pull it through. And so this is good to go now. Basically all you got to do is sort of wick out the holes, and yeah, it's good to go. So basically if you tried wicking these out singly, it's really hard to get all the solder around the pin because they're quite tight. This is a way of sort of achieving it without sort of damaging the barrel. So anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'll move on to another device now, a surface mount part, and I'll show you a good option to remove that. Right, so following on from the previous video with the single row connector, just going to show you sort of the difference in methods of 2 irons and a heat gun all in one short video. Now I'm going to remove this coil over the left hand side with 2 irons. There's quite a gap end to end, about 1.5 cm, but it'll show you how easy it is to remove sort of components like that. Because over the back I've got this large plastic bodied battery holder. I've obviously removed the battery for safety's sake, because I'm actually going to remove this diode I'm pointing to now with a hot air gun. You can see how easy it is to sort of melt your plastic if you don't protect it. So if I was taking this off, for example, on a normal board, I'd use 2 irons, which I'm going to show on this diode here how easy it is. So you don't always need to use a heat gun. 2 irons just as effective, and at certain times it's actually safer. So we'll start off with the coil, then we'll go to the heat gun, then we'll finish off with the 2 irons. And, yeah, I hope you enjoy this clip. Right, so move on to the part where I'm going to take these 3 devices off now. So you've got this large coil over here. You've got these 2 diodes, one there, this one here. So with this one I'm going to use a hot air gun, and the other 2 devices I'm going to use 2 irons. The reason I'm going to use a hot air gun is just yeah, just to sort of show that 2 irons is actually a better option for this sort of device, because it's near this sort of plastic. It's actually a large battery holder. So anyway, start taking the coil off. So again, you want to add some flux, trusted friend. So a little bit on each joint, not too much. Just run a fillet around there. Then what I'll do first, I'm going to tin these up. Just put a fresh bit of solder on, just so there's sort of 2 irons taped to it really quickly. Just get some on there, just add some around there. It's quite hard to get my iron in because of the camera. Hopefully I've got in there. What we do now, just bring the second iron in, and this will slide off really easily. Just get that on there and that one on there. Just be patient while the sort of heat goes underneath. And that will just slide off really easily. So you've got 2 nice pads. Just going to get them whipped off, and then we'll sort of give them a quick clean up. Get my solder braid just put it on the joint. Just pull some of the solder off. Get the bit up there. And do the other joint. I'll give it all a proper clean up at the end. So there you go, got your second nice pad there. So that's that device removed with 2 irons really easily. I'm just going to remove that device from the shot. So what I'm going to do now is concentrate on this diode in the centre. Sort of one down here. Because it's quite near this plastic body, we'll see how this one goes. So I've got my heat gun set to about sort of 375. You will hear the air going. Just try and get that in shot so you can see the plastic body as well. Now this would actually take quite a bit of heat, this device. So just circle the area as I always do. It certainly won't come off as quick as the 2 iron option. Just got to be patient, wait for the solder to melt. Where I can avoid using a heat gun, I'll try to. I can already see the plastic melting along the top, sort of up here. There you go, that's gone now. But basically I've got a little bit of damage on the plastic around the top surface, which isn't ideal. Yes, you've got a little bit of damage running around the top, because if you've got a battery in there, if you were going to use a heat gun, you really want to remove that first. So just get these 2 pads cleaned up. Pull the solder off them. Same with that one there. A couple of loose bits of solder floating around. So that's them 2 pads. So as you can see, you've got a tiny, it's not much I must admit, you've got a tiny amount of sort of damage along the top rim. Now we're going to take the same component off now with 2 soldering irons. And this is how much quicker it is to do this option. So just add some flux again. I'm just going to get these slightly tinned up, there's not a lot of solder there to play with. Just add a fresh bit of solder. Same down there. Right, now we'll try and slide that off, and this will go a lot quicker than the heat gun option. Bring the second iron into play. Right, it should slide off any second, it shouldn't take too long. There you go, it's gone straight off. So what I'll do now, quickly wick them off. Lift that one out of your shot. So say, if you're near plastic, you can protect it with a foil that I've spoke about in previous videos. Or you can do it with 2 irons. Just get that clean, this last one there. Right, I'm just going to give that a total wipe over now. There you go, we've got 6 nice pads, all nice and clean, and that's how easy it is. So what I'm going to do now is move on to another device, a through hole device, where I've got sort of 2 rows of sort of quite spread out joints, and I'll show you a really good trick for getting them sort of devices out. So move on to that one now. Right, so move on to the second through hole device in these short videos. This one's quite a large transformer. Now it's about 1 inch from end to end, and there's a row of joints. There's one going across this end underneath, and there's sort of one going across this end, about 1 inch apart, like I said. So basically this would normally be quite difficult to remove. So you can try sort of wicking out the solder from around the pins, sort of down the barrel. But like I've said before, if you get some of the solder stuck down, it's hard to always get it out. You can easily rip the barrel out. So what I'll do on this, I'm going to turn it over sort of in a minute. I'll show you how we do this. And we get 2 pieces of wire, sort of one along each row, and I'll tape them down into position, and then I'll show you it's worth of getting maybe a second sort of iron to drop this out quite easily. So yeah, it's a good option, good method. It sort of shows what use you can do with 2 irons, and it's a good safe way of getting sort of rather large components with 2 rows that are quite spread out. It's a good way of getting these out. So what I'll do, I'll move on to sort of turning it over and we'll show you how we drop it out. Right, so as you can see, I've got basically the 2 pieces of wire sort of taped in position. So this is the transformer flipped over to the back side. I've got the Captain tape holding it down. So what I'm going to do again, as always, just add a small amount of flux, just basically, yeah, along each sort of joint. Same around the back side. Just add a small amount where the sort of joins are. And what you can do now, basically just join them all up. Just say this is a method I'm going to use 2 soldering irons. I'm going to put 1 on each sort of wire. So basically, yeah, just join all them up in sort of all 6 positions. So just get a nice amount around each. Just add them 2 up there. Just add that one there. So as you can see, I've got all 6 positions nicely joined up. So what I'm going to do now is just bring a second iron in, hold it on this wire, and I'll hold the other iron on this wire, and the heat should sort of transfer right along the wire, and it should drop the blue component underneath, the blue transformer, out below. So what we do, bring the second iron in, we try and drop it out. Right, just tin my second iron quickly. Right, let's bring the second iron in, and yeah, hopefully we can drop this out. They just want the heat to transfer right along. There you go. So you can see it's fallen out underneath. It's fallen out to the desk below. Now all you've got to do is, as before, just pull the wire carefully off the sort of pads to the left. Move it out of the way. And same with that one, just push it out of the way. What you're left with is 6 pads that are still pretty good. So what I'm going to do, just quickly pull this tape away. We take the wires out of shot. Just going to wick off a couple of them, just so you can see how sort of clean they come off. Just get some solder wick on that one. So you see that one's nicely cleaned. Just get a couple more cleaned off quickly. When you're using wick or solder braid, just try and add some flux to it. It really will aid the braid, sort of sucking the solder up. We do just get a couple more cleaned up. Just that one. Just get a bit more on that one. And when you're using braid as well, always cut off the sort of loaded braid, because it won't take any more solder. That one, just do this one. I'll clean all 6 up just quickly for the video. That one might have a ground plane underneath, so that might be, yeah, what you do, just top that one up if it's not coming out. We'll try that one again. So what I'm going to do, just quickly try that one again. If you hold your braid sort of away from the end, the solder will go both ways. That's that one cleaned up. Let's do this last one. You can see the solder travelling both ways. So that's all 6 sort of pads nicely cleaned up. Ready to sort of take a new component if that's what you're aiming to do. What I'm going to do is get a bit of cleaning fluid and we'll clean that one up. The cleaning fluid I use is called Ultrasolve. It's widely available from places like Farnell, RS Components, etc. I'll just quickly clean these up. So there you go, you've got 6 nice pads, just got a bit of flux, bit of a burnt solder on there. So as you can see, you've got 6 nice pads all cleaned up, and that's how easy it is to drop that component out. So there you go, there's the transformer in question. So that's how easy it is, 2 wires like that and you'll be fine for your 2 road components. So moving on from the large transformer we've just dropped out, I'll come on to the last video in these videos. This one's going to be a sort of small BGA. just sort of show you how I get this off quickly, and I'll sort of clean the pads up. Yeah, I generally do my BGA's all a similar way. So what I do is just add some flux around the outside, just so it runs underneath. Now when I'm refitting BGA's, generally you have to use sticky flux, so it sort of holds the BGA in position once you've sort of placed it. Here, just add a sort of bead of flux around the outside. That's just general rework flux. And basically got my hot air gun set to about 400 degrees and the air about 90. So yeah, one thing with these, don't try and take them off too early, because yeah, if the pads come off, it's pretty hard to fix these sort of boards. So yeah, just basically circle the area as always. Hopefully you can hear me through the air going. Yeah, I've got to have the air quite high. So just circle the area. Be patient. And we'll just keep going all around the whole area, get it all warm. Eventually the heat will transfer underneath and sort of melt all the balls at the same time. So patience is key to this. A good guide is when the sort of components around the outside start melting slightly. You don't want them to melt and blow away, obviously. Right, it's loose now, I'm just going to pull that off. Right, it's lifted that off. As you can see, you've got all the balls still there. So what I'll do now, quickly, I'll flux that up while it's still warm, the heat's still in the board. So just get some sort of solder braid. So what you find with BGA is generally the sort of solder that's on the BGA, the little balls on the BGA, generally enough to drop the sort of new device on. You just wick all these off. So if you can get all the pads the same level, when you put the new device on, all the balls are obviously going to all be the same height. You've got no risk of none of them not sort of taking. I'll sort of blow this up in a minute so you can actually sort of see the balls or see the pads clearer. Just do 2 or 3 rows at a time. Just go across quite carefully. Just got one more lot to do, and it's, yeah, they're all pretty clean then. Let's do these last 2. Right, that's all the balls all nice, all the pads nice and clean. So I'll just give that a quick clean up, and then I'll hopefully zoom in and you'll see it sort of slightly clearer. So just give that a clean. So hopefully you can, yeah, we'll try and get this sort of slightly better focus and sort of zoom in. Just going to try and zoom in here. So hopefully you can see them sort of pads all sort of nicely still there. So one's up the top. So yeah, as you can see, no pads have come away at all, and that's nice and clear. So that's yeah, that's what you're looking for. So basically, yeah, best to clear all the old solder off. And then, so when you lower the new device, you're going to get a consistent joint. So the new devices should have enough solder on the balls to sort of give you a good joint without having any paste on these pads. So yeah, that's basically how I get me BGA's off, and yeah, hopefully you see them pads nice and clear. So anyway, that sort of concludes these videos. What I'll do in the near future, I'll put some more soldering videos up. And yeah, if you enjoyed this one, it'd be great if you could sort of, you know, like it and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you again soon with some more soldering videos. So thanks for tuning in, take care, and I'll see you soon.